Okay, those are the questions that I'm getting at. You know what I'm saying? Because as you just said, it all depends on what the documentation says. And what the documentation doesn't, how do we address that? And are they left out? Are they included? There's those bylaws and what have you vary from HOA to HOA, don't they? I mean, you all know that. Those of you who live in it and create them, they vary. And my question is this going to be something when it comes to those entities? Because there are a lot of them.
It could be, and there are some HOAs that are particularly responsible for the trees in the common areas, and oftentimes the trees are the problem.
Right.
That's busting up the sidewalks with the roots.
Councilmember Green, you said that it kind of doesn't make you feel good about this. Do you have an alternative plan or something that could be better than what we have in front of us?
Well, I'm just going to kind of feel like I need to address the Walnut Hill folks are here. Let's just talk to them about it, because for the HOA in your neighborhood, there is reserve account, right? Is there a reserve?
No.
So,
No, we have special assessment just for common things.
So there would be actually a special assessment done if the 50/50 program.
Well, my recollection in 2004 was that when we were approved, our subdivision was approved, we turned over ownership. We owned the entire property. And then upon approval, well, for one, we paid Davis Bone and Friedel had a guy sitting on site. I think we paid him $37,500 to sit on site all the time to make sure everything was done to spec. And upon approval, we turned over the 4-foot sidewalk, the 8-foot planting strip, and the 48 trees that we planted in that strip, and the 23-foot roadbed, and the 2 6-foot-long curbs. Turns that over to the town. So, in our mind, that's not ours. But we have been doing cost sharing for years. We cut the planting strip of the town's property. We do tree maintenance every year. Thankfully, we let Jimmy know when we're cutting branches, and they come and pick them up for us. But we've been doing beyond what we thought our responsibility was, and now somebody's telling us that we need to pay for the sidewalk that we turned over to the town.
No, Dave, I think it's common practice for the homeowner to be responsible for the grass that's in front, even as part of the utility easement. Is that correct? Like maintaining it, cutting it, trimming it. Like if I have my home and then a sidewalk in front of it, and there's grass between the road and the sidewalk, it's my responsibility to cut that grass.
And we're fine with that.
Okay,
I'm just saying.
I'm just saying for the public
We're
record.
fine with that. We're fine with pruning the trees for now. Up until now, it's been low branches. As the trees get taller, we got bigger issues.
My next question is, and Ron, you had mentioned like what was turned over and how it was built. It was built well before a lot of us were up there. What I have always been told is that it was advised not to plant the trees close to the sidewalks the way that they were planted in the way that they were without a sleeve.
We planted the trees as per specifications, the number, the species. The only thing we were given was where to plant them in the circle. And, we had to do that. We had to plant those specific 48 trees, those specific species to get our permit from the Maryland Street Tree Program or whatever it was. So everything we did was to spec and approved by your consultant.
So by the town.
The town's consultant.
Ron, you and I had a conversation. You felt that just grinding down certain areas of the sidewalk would solve the problem here temporarily.
Temporarily, yeah.
And you have any kind of sense roughly of how much that would cost?
That's not been in our bailiwick. All we know is it's a danger.
Right.
And we're not complaining. We're just saying, I think Jimmy knows, everybody knows that it's a problem. It's just, why is it our problem?
I think one of the other solutions that have been presented is that if there's going to be repairs made, that the advice would be to eliminate the cause of the problem, which would be, I think, arguably the trees, which none of us really want to see go. But if you're going to make the investment into fixing it, that we would have to find a way to be able to make sure, to the best of our ability, that it's not going to then recreate the problem like it.
And we're all for a discussion on how to move forward. Definitely. We have to live with this. The town has to live with this. I think the grinding initially will solve the initial safety concerns. And then we need to work on a long-term solution.
Couple of things. The solution to the trees, it's a costly one. When you plant trees within so many feet of a sidewalk, you plant them on a nest, which forces the roots down instead of up. That's a long-term solution that I would recommend for any new sidewalk.
And the species, because we know
And
the
the
maples,
species, correct.
sycamores are the main problem.
Some species.
So if
Yeah.
a tree dies or we have to take something out, we go to a species that's less likely to have a problem.
The other thing that is going to consider is if the town is going to take on the full cost for the sidewalk replacement, then the first thing you're going to need to do is pay somebody to do a study and determine priorities. You can't just base it on, frankly, whichever group is the most vocal, because there are some people that don't think about sidewalks in front of their house, others that do. So this is just what I would say you would need to do in order to allocate how you're going to spend that money for repairs. The way the program is that I have proposed, it's of course kind of where certain level applies and then the money's out in a given year.
So I just want to make sure, do we not, Mayor asked if we have the resources to do the grinding. And did I understand that, Jimmy, we do, but we don't have the time to make them ADA compliant?
We don't have the, so my comment was that, to Steve's point, we were talking about like cost share. And I said that it would be evaluated differently. If we had the resources to maybe do a fix in-house, we might not say, hey, look, we got to have a 50% cost share. We might just be able to find the available time and make the fix. If it's something that needs to be outsourced, whether it's too high of a elevation and our crews aren't capable of getting the appropriate grade to meet compliance, or whether it's specialized equipment, then we have to look at it a little bit different.
And if you don't address the issue of the trees, you'll be right back to it. Probably not us, but 20 years, it'll be the same.
I don't know how many years ago, 5 or 6 years ago, the town came, we had the problem. It was rectified. The town came in, they ground where they needed to ground. Some places they replaced the sidewalks in sections. So, that was the solution at the time. It's not the first time we've dealt with this.
So this last time, okay, I'm not a tree person. Can we put seeds in trees that exist?
No, I don't.
No, it's too late.
You would have to cut the roots.
And I think you would have to more or less try to buffer the new sidewalk construction from the existing tree.
So in Walnut Hill, how many feet of sidewalk actually need to be?
I was going to say, there's a couple spots that have like a 3 to 4 inch lip. So I don't think grinding is going to.
By the time you grind it, you'll be down to the dirt.
Nothing, right.
Are you talking like 10 feet of repair sidewalk or?
No,
It's like
beyond
county locations. And it's probably through the whole circle, yes. And then there's probably, each of them locations, we might have to go back 10 feet just in one direction to keep that ADA compliant. Right? The ones we're looking at is not specific to where the tree and they lifted, it's bringing the ones up before it to bring them up to level and then create that so you have a smoother transition.
I'm just trying to determine how much this could potentially cost. Sidewalks generally on the average, $10 a square foot.
What's happened today?
I think Dean's got your number.
A lot of them.
I don't know about that, but and these are 4-foot sidewalks?
You would probably exhaust with a 50-50 match. You'd come close to exhausting your 20 grand. So you think?
Oh, yeah.
I want to say that the $20,000 budget suggestion was based on a quote that we received with the thought that at 50%, we could do that plus more.
Not much more, but that.
No,
Yeah, we were around 25 to 30 to do the whole entire project, to bring it to where
it's what we want as in ADA application. So if you look at that, we're somewhere around 10, probably about 14 to 15, 16 area of that 20 grand.
That's just one community.
Yep.
That's just one community.
And there's nothing that says we have to tackle it all at once, but then
No.
there are savings and economies of scale by tackling all of these.
Ron said two things. Ron said two things.
No.
And, you know, I hope I get this right. Because I've been known to mess some stuff up. But Ron said, when the streets were turned over to the town, the sidewalk and the street became the responsibility of the town.
And the planting strip and the trees and the planting strip between the sidewalk and the street.
But when you went on to talk about the fix, you said that we would have to discuss that. I'm saying that if the town is gonna put town money, taxpayer money, into this endeavor, the town needs to control.
Oh yeah, no, it's definitely. But as to a long-term solution, I was talking about. So we still have trees that we need to keep for a couple of reasons.
Well, this is the part I hope I go right. I'm saying that any solution, short-term, long-term, that involves taxpayer money, the town needs that control.
Complete. I didn't. You didn't. You must have misunderstood me. I'm not saying we're going to control it. I think as neighbors and the people who utilize the sidewalks and the streets, we should be a part of the discussion. That's where I'm coming from.
Yes. And I do agree about the discussion. But when it comes down to fixing this thing, taxpayer money, the town needs that control.
Yes, I agree. Yeah.
All right, so this is first reading, but I mean, if there are any better ways to solve this, we're open here. So like, anybody has an idea that we have overlooked? You said you do.
So I have just a couple of questions on the ordinance. On section E2 says if someone is pointed out when they have some condition,
This is section 171B2, very first page.
so it says if someone's pointed out for having a hazardous condition, given a minimum of 20 calendar days to correct it. I don't think that's
No,
No way.
that was language that was originally there.
I understand.
Very easy, change.
So I'd like to see that change. Something much more.
Hold on one second though. Planning. Are there small infractions that would require a shorter time limit to complete? Maybe we need two different.
There is two different.
Code says 20 days as the minimum and 60 days is the maximum.
For
As
any
it currently,
other condition. Hold on.
Most dangerous.
Well, I think if it's the most dangerous condition, we should have some sense of urgency there, wouldn't you think? I mean, I know we're talking about changes in elevation.
I don't agree that it needs
Getting
to
it
fix
done,
immediately.
like-
Getting a contractor in there.
Just getting a bid could take over a month.
Take
I'm
more.
not arguing that.
Yeah.
I agree with you on this. What I'm saying is that I'm trying to think of something outside of a change in elevation that would occur to a sidewalk where we would need a sense of urgency. I'm not saying I have one in my head, but somebody obviously thought 20 days was reasonable whenever they put it in here. I'm just trying to understand where
At
the
the end of Bay Street, and 113, there's a section of sidewalk that's 2.5 inches.
Right.
Now that's state road. I don't know who's responsible, town or state, whatever, but that's a hazard.
Is it 20 days, just a normal our code, like somebody gets cited for a code violation, they have roughly 20 days for code.
it depends what it is. If junk is 20 days,
That's
you
not
know,
always.
that it depends on what.
Frankly, they probably just used language that existed without necessarily tailoring it to
I
the.
agree with that. I'm just saying 20
Yeah.
days is not enough.
I mean, that would be easy. What would you like it to read?
45.
45? With a maximum of 60?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's what, but that could be weather contingent too. You can't be laying concrete when it's sub degrees. And most of your crap always happens when it freezes and it cracks and all, yeah.
And it does in section B state that if it is determined by the code enforcement officer that the sidewalk is blah, 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 or the apron. So it implies us knowing about the concern. So that's, I see what you're saying.
The other thing I saw in the existing code, when it comes to the 50-50 split, cited a $1,000 maximum.
I'm removing the dollar figure from the code. It's just not a good idea
I agree.
to specify that. The dollar figure will be specified in the policy, because that's easier to change. That's just an option.
Go back 30 seconds. Mayor, you said what? Because Gina stated weather permitting,
Yeah,
and then you said,
I was thinking in my head, I was looking more closely at, section 28-171 B2, and I had read through B itself above briefly, but my mind was going, well, what happens if somebody doesn't know about it? But then I read where it says determined by the code enforcement officer down, and then it goes on, so it implies that we already know about it.
I do think that we need somewhere in this, that big note of weather, because I mean, weather can slow down the process for all parties involved.
I think in any case,
I want to
I know you get into, you want it to be specific, but at the same time, we have to trust that our personnel are going to use discretion where it's needed. Obviously, if it's the middle of January or the 45 days we hit the middle of June, we know that the work can't be done. At the same time, you can't build that kind of flexibility into the code.
What about to say, like, secure a contractor within that time? Not necessarily that the work has to be done.
Yeah, that's true. They can procure a contractor who may not work until April.
Shows the thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so let me track what our recommended changes. So, section 28-171 B2, changing, the minimum or the maximum, the minimum to 45, and what's our max?
But if we're changing it to permit, then we need to change.
I'm sorry, say it
If
again.
we're changing it just showing good faith in doing the job, then we need to change it.
Still need time to get.
You still want it to be, the language to be there to define it for people.
So a time limit specified for the procurement,
At minimum.
The correction or procurement
Distinguish the
that's
minimum.
correct, the hazard.
of services. A time limit specified for the correction of or procurement of services to address the hazardous condition.
Which shall be a minimum of 45 and then a maximum of 60.
Do you want to change 60 to 90? Or is that too
Yeah,
low?
I agree.
Why can't we say, why can't we say 45 to 60, or as determined by the planning director?
I like
Yeah.
that. Provide the flexibility that's needed.
What did you ask me? What did you say?
What did I say? Giving planning and zoning the discretion.
Yeah.
Because they know the weather. And they also know the timeline, so.
All right, next thing, the way I understand this, if someone is responsible for paying for the sidewalk repair, whether it's 50-50 or not, they're also responsible for getting permits from the town to pay for the work. I'd like to see the town waive permit fees in this case.
Yes.
Ryan, can you speak to what the permit fee would be for something like this? I don't know what that amount.
I can't remember what it's reading.
Okay.
I don't think it matters. I don't think it really matters. I think there would be support too.
Right.
Yeah.
Because this is town-owned property. They're asking people to pay for a permit. I don't think that's really.
She's not like that.
Yeah, like that.
Where is that?
I think there's a couple different places.
Okay, all right.
I have a question.
That way the dollars are going to actual repairs, correct?
I agree with
My question is on, section 28.173, procedure, paragraph C. The way it reads is that the town's gonna pay the contractor, and then we're gonna bill the homeowner for 50%. My opinion would be the homeowner has to pony up 50% before we do the work.
In this particular section, this refers to someone who we have approached and offered chances and they just haven't done it. This is enforcement. And in my way of thinking, if we have had to go after somebody to do the work to that extent, why would we offer them the same 50% as the homeowner who was proactive?
So you're.
That's my thinking.
So you don't agree with this section either?
50% has been removed. It says, the total expense incurred. This is if it's gotten to the point where the town is correcting the situation with no cooperation from the property. Same as if we have to go and cut their grass or that kind of thing.
All right, well, I'm looking at 28.173 and I don't see any changes to it.
There are strike throughs.
Not the
The
copy.
words 50% of are struck through.
Yeah.
50% of.
It's the fifth line of that section.
Give a page number.
They're building a hole. They don't get.
Correct. And this, again, this is an enforcement only. This is no different than if we send our letters and tell them they have to cut their grass and we don't, and then we don't cut it.
Is there anything in here about hardship?
No.
I think there should be. Because, what's up?
How are you going to define that?
I don't know, but I'm just saying that, like, if you have somebody, I'm just trying to think through the different things that are going to occur. If you have somebody that, for whatever means, right, they're making the decision, I don't know how we quantify it, that they do their medicine, they do their whatever they need for their basic necessities, or they fix the sidewalk.
I can do. I understand.
I just think that we need to at least have a discussion about
Quantifying.
it. I don't know how you do it, but
I had
the circumstance.
one other area I want to.
Nobody wants to take that on review.
I was thinking about that. When it comes to hardship, can we, not that they're only limited, not that those people in hardship are only limited to receiving the assistance when it comes to energy and whatnot, but if you fit in that category and you're a homeowner and then you have this damage done to your sidewalk, I kind of feel that that fits into a hardship kind of spot.
Well, I would think that maybe there's something in here that doesn't require, I'm not saying that it's in here now, but that maybe there's something that says, hey, look, we recognize because the town's protected itself, right?
Yeah.
We've said if there's not available funding, we're not doing it. But we haven't protected the homeowner to say, hey, there's no available funding, I'm not able to do it, right? So I think there should be some exercisable ability by the homeowner to say, hey, look, I can't do this for whatever reason. Can we defer this 1 year?
Right. I hear you when you say that, but I feel like what I thought I heard you saying is, how do you qualify, for lack of a better term? How do you justify the hardship?
I don't think you work to justify the hardship. I think what you do is you build in here that the property owner has the ability on a case-by-case basis to request a 12-month deferral to the next fiscal year.
If you're not removing the financial obligation, you're giving them more time.
Correct.
So like in the case of, right,
And they can.
in front of us, the HOA situation doesn't have the reserve of planning funded, but we do have serious public safety issues.
And as written, the code enforcement could enact this without any
Right. So I can think about that's the kind of an example, but I also think there'll be more like single family home owners too that would have that as well. But I love the idea of showing some grace because if this group can go back to their folks, it's not going to be received well at all, but, there's an opportunity to try to meet that 50-50. I like the thought of it. It's people smarter than me to figure out how to put that in there. But it's just adding time, not forgiving.
correct.
I like it.
And if you notice, say you're habitual, I can't do it, I can't do it, I can't do it, then we have the way to be able to come in and do it we can say, hey, look, we've tried, so now we got to make the repair, and here's the bill.
You still need to quantify how you're gonna determine that.
I think that,
You could have a landlord of
But I
10
wouldn't-
properties,
wouldn't-
you're just not gonna do it.
but I
So
wouldn't
when you
try
determine
to,
the hardship.
but I wouldn't try to take the word hardship out, right? Like I wouldn't try to determine hardship, because that could take us all day to try and define it. What I would do is say that the property owner with, on a case by case basis, may request the deferral of the repairs for a period of 12 months. And that's it. I mean, but it could be a slippery slope.
Yeah.
But
And
the
that's
challenge
more-
is
the
that
more
we
you take
protected
into
ourselves,
details.
right? Like we've protected ourselves as the town by saying, if we don't have the money, we're not making the repair. But it doesn't do anything to protect the property.
So if that's a consideration for the town, it needs to be a consideration for property. That's all the fact.
But I recognize the public safety thing, but in this instance, we've had a public safety concern for what? 5 years, 10 years?
It grows every year.
Okay, but like,
2024 is when it started getting out of control,
okay.
and now it's
I mean,
there's probably
it's about 20 years since the trees were
there's
planted.
about 7 spots, probably 3 or 4 inch lips. So I don't know what happens if somebody gets hurt.
That's a good question. But
My
so I should start with the folks to your right.
We don't want to do that.
I just want to also say, like, we obviously good with just some kind of plan moving forward, like in phases. Let's get the worst sections, fixed first, and then worry about grinding the small stuff later.
Again, that requires incentive.
And again, these are town-owned trees causing the damage, right?
Trees,
They weren't
they're
planted.
private property, not town.
Town didn't plant the trees.
I don't know.
They're not sidewalks.
That's why
And if that's the case, the town will have to remove all the trees because we won't be able to do the work and have trees there.
But then also, like, let's do another example, right?
Yeah.
Like, let's say somebody plants a tree in the right of way easement, at their home, right? And then they sell the property. It doesn't change ownership of that tree, right? Like, you all still have responsibility for the trees that are in front of the home. Is that correct?
On our property, yes.
Their documents say that they're responsible for their trees in the common area.
And their
That's
documents.
not what we
said that?
read.
Yeah, there is
My
document-
recollection, yes, it does.
Yeah, there is the documents.
So they're your trees. Just an FYI.
We thought for a long time until somebody found a document that said the opposite. Show me the document.
I think that's a good conversation for all of you all to have off.
I have to follow it. I mean, this has been going on. I remember Jeff Fleetwood was here, and I think back when,
That was when the repair was done.
when he
Yeah, right.
was talking about repairs, I don't know what happened. That's when he first put on uphill on my radar. So I do have their own HOA documents. Haven't memorized them, but I have with. I've got.
All right, let's, I think, have we captured all the, go ahead,
One more section, section 28-172,
page number?
28 of the package.
28.
if I'm interpreting this right, what this says is that if the code enforcement officer of the town of Berlin determines that a certain property or section is in need of a sidewalk, they can make that call to require a sidewalk. It seems to me that should go to a much higher authority, whether it's your council, planning director, town administrator, whoever. I don't think that should be the sole call of the code enforcement officer.
And I want an explanation of why you would have to. I mean, you could literally go
Well,
across the house and get a
let's say-
sidewalk built that way.
The area on Old Ocean City Boulevard, that is in need of sidewalks, but code enforcement officer says, okay, you guys are all required to put in a sidewalk. According to the code. What's that? Well, I realize that, but I'm using that. as
Good example.
You can use West Street as an example. You're ready to have a school. You could actually code enforcement
West Street.
bring down and say,
That's a good
you need a sidewalk and you're going to pay for it.
Right.
And
It
this
shouldn't
is
fall-
really.
Marie, what's your address?
I have a statement that I'd like
Go
to
ahead.
read to you all. Maybe it'll give you something.
Hold on, let's hear council member.
So I just want to say, can we change that authority to mayor and council?
Well, hold on. So in here, it does have a parameter for that. And it says, so section 28-172B3, an explanation of the owner's right to appeal the decision to the Housing Board of Review within 10 calendar days from the date of notice and procedural for filing. And if everybody recalls, the Housing Board of Review now encompasses the chair of BZA, the chair of the HPC, and the chair of the planning.
And I agree with that, but I don't even think it should get to that. That's all I'm saying.
Well, you have to allow some staff level autonomy, but you also have to allow the right for the property owner to have an appeal, which I think this
I
does.
agree. I'm just saying it should be a planning director, town administrator for this body.
Maybe just change in the language saying that the code enforcement will initiate the process or approve an issue.
But hold on, so then,
Still have to find you have,
Go on the streets and
but each approval shouldn't come to here. Don't you?
No.
That needs to happen at a staff level decision.
Okay, so the code enforcement officer can go to Marie's house and say, you need a sidewalk in front of the house. And she can go to the housing board, but she shouldn't have to. It shouldn't get.
But ultimately, so there's internal appeals built into that too, right? Like just because a staff member has the ability to do that, they're still reporting. The code enforcement officer reports to the planning director. The planning director reports to the town administrator. The town administrator reports to the mayor. But it doesn't have to be spelled out in here.
the Housing Board of Review has the ability to listen to and judgment. They can make the judgment that it then goes to the next step. Right.
Because the appeal shouldn't be to this body.
Right. But it puts a lot of extra work on the homeowner to file that appeal and go through that process.
But also it's very arbitrary. It's not saying anything. It's just saying, hey, we can make you do this and tough.
But it doesn't say that. It provides the But, well, on the surface, it might say that, but if you get to number 3, it says an explanation of the homeowner's right to appeal.
So I gotta
the
take time to make an appeal because someone randomly and arbitrarily, because there's no set of anything in here, is saying I need a random sidewalk placed in front of
But
my
that's
house.
not how that
because I
works.
Determined it, but that's the language. You're making it very open.
It does not say that.
It does say that.
It
does
says,
say that.
whenever it is brought to the attention of the code enforcement officer of the town, that property abutting any public way in town is in need of a sidewalk to protect the public health, safety, and welfare of the town. That's what it says, to protect the public health,
Where's
safety,
the
and welfare.
It also goes on to say shall conduct an inspection to determine if a sidewalk is necessary. So there would be other factors
There's a lot
involved.
that goes into this, other than just walking down and saying a sidewalk would look pretty here.
I guess when I look at that, I think about the process that we went, Dave, I feel like I've talked about this 10 times. Remember when the sidewalks were put through on my street?
Yeah.
We weren't given much say. Not that, and we didn't, well, I'll say this. There were no complaints on Flower Street when the sidewalks came.
Yeah, everybody wanted.
Not a single complaint, but we weren't given the opportunity to complain either. We were not.
Well, the residents had to sign easements. There was a legal process.
I mean, we had decided, but it wasn't like, you need to complain, and you guys can choose not to sign it. I mean, we got our $1 for signing. Don't get me wrong, I remember the whole process.
If the operator had refused to sign it, they would have put a sidewalk.
Well, the sidewalk still would have happened, even if one of us had complained. It still would have happened. But I mean, what I'm saying is, I don't, again, looking at it sitting in this seat versus sitting on that side of the table when it actually happened, and I didn't complain because we sure as heck needed sidewalks. The entire street needed sidewalks. We didn't complain, but it wasn't, I don't feel that, and we probably were. Mind you, I was 23 years old when this happened. We did own the house, but there were no complaints. Like, the sidewalk was needed, whoever, and we didn't have a code enforcement person at that point. Whoever the person was, planning and zoning and the town itself and safety, you need a sidewalk. Most of us agreed that we did, and the sidewalk came.
I don't know if there was a community meeting or not, I don't recall.
No, there wasn't one.
I know that we at least talked to each property
Yeah, we were,
Particularly.
right, for sure. Yeah, there was no community meeting. At that point, I was pretty young and active in things. Nowadays, not much. But there wasn't one, and it happened, and like it or not, you got a sidewalk. Thanks, people. There you go. So, I mean, I guess I have a hard time. I'm not saying that it was done correctly, but that's how it was done. In what year was that? I can't even remember.
A long time ago.
2010.
Something
Probably
like that.
earlier than that.
No, it wasn't. Well, it might have
Well,
been.
you said you were 23, so.
Yeah, it might have been 10 or 12, somewhere around there. I don't know.
All right, let's see if we can move this.
So here's the thing.
For a cost sharing program on the front in the bold. Is that true?
What was it?
It says, on the front page, it says the 172 new sidewalk for public safety. And then it says, it's important to note that elsewhere in this article are several references to the cost sharing permit not being applicable to a new sidewalk where none currently exists. So if
You're looking at the staff report.
100% cost.
Yes. A new building is required to build a sidewalk.
Well, yeah, a new building an HOA, that comes on the builder, but this isn't determining whether it's a homeowner or an HOA. This is the same.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. If someone is building a new home on an infill lot, they have to build sidewalks. Here's the thing. If you start tearing this down too much, then you might as well just get rid of the whole thing and say the town's responsible for all sidewalks. I mean, seriously, that's what you're aiming for.
Raise tax.
You're not wrong. We don't have the money to pay for it.
We don't either.
You can't define all this. In the end, you're just going to say all sidewalks are the responsibility of the town.
Yeah, but
At the same time, you're trying to build a better one.
I understand.
But I think so far we've done
To
well.
divide it,
I think so far we've done well with this. I think our holdup right this moment appears to be just the section 172. So now, is there any more discussion about? Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot about your statement. Go ahead.
I am requesting that the mayor and council sponsor a legislative amendment to chapter 162. I ask that you strike down the sections penalizing the property owners and formally transfer the structural repair, replacement, and liability of all public sidewalks to the Berlin Public Works Streets Division. Berlin is famous for being a historic, highly walkable community. Our walkways are used every single day by tourists, school children, strollers, and everyday residents. Yet under Chapter 162 of our current town code, the immense physical and financial burden of maintaining these public walkways falls solely on the individual property owners who happen to live next to them. Right now, if a sidewalk cracks due to town planted tree roots or natural shifting, a resident can be slapped with a municipal infraction and fined up to $500 if they don't pay out of pocket to fix it. This system is inherently unfair. Sidewalks are public rights of way, not private patios. Forcing piecemeal repairs on individual citizens means our walkways are repaired with varying levels of quality, creating immediate trip hazards and serious liabilities. It also creates a massive barrier to town-wide Americans with Disabilities Act compliance. A unified, accessible, and safe historic town requires a unified maintenance system. This work belongs in the hands of trained professionals. Shifting this responsibility ensures that repairs are done correctly, systematically, and safely. It treats public infrastructure as a public good, funded through equitable town-wide capital planning, rather than surprise multi-$1,000 burdens on individual families. Status quo arguments usually include, this has been the law in Berlin for decades and it works. But just because law is old does not mean it is equitable or effective. Berlin is growing, aging, and drawing more tourism than ever before. The current system relies on a reactive enforcement, meaning sidewalks only get fixed when someone complains or an infraction is issued. This creates a patchwork of mismatched sidewalk patches. If we want a truly walkable, modern historic district that protects the town from ADA lawsuits, we must treat sidewalks with the same proactive, professional municipal care that we give to our paved streets. The town can establish a multi-year sidewalk capital improvement plan, addressing the worst areas first. Furthermore, centralized municipal bidding allows the town to secure bulk pricing for concrete work, making repairs significantly cheaper per square foot than a private resident hiring an individual contractor. Funding public infrastructure through general funds is the definition of municipal government. However, if a tax increase is a concern, the town can look at alternative funding mechanisms used successfully elsewhere, and we have them here. This includes utilizing Maryland State Highway Administration grants, applying for federal ADA compliance grants, or establishing a dedicated, predictable local infrastructure fee that is far more manageable for families than a surprise $3,000 repair bill or a $500 code enforcement fine. So this idea should be only a last resort measure. We have too many fees as it is. Under current Maryland municipal law, the town already faces potential liability, exposures for public rights of way. By taking proactive control of maintenance, the town actually reduces its overall risk. When the public works manages the sidewalk, the town can establish an official inspection log and a systematic repair schedule. Legally, courts look favorably on municipalities that have a documented active plan to fix hazards, whereas a hands-off approach leaves the town vulnerable to systemic accessibility violations. A 50-50 cost share program is a positive step toward relief, and we welcome that discussion as an interim. However, the ultimate goal must be total municipal oversight. Even a 50% share can be an impossible financial hurdle for our neighbors on fixed incomes or senior citizens. If the cost share is implemented, it must include a hardship waiver to ensure low-income residents are never penalized for infrastructure outside their front door.
We didn't even share notes before we started.
Well done.
Thank you, Mr. Brewer. Mary, how much did we, or Natalie, you might be the better ask on this.
You have a copy.
How much did we put in for the new street study? There was a new street study in the 27 budget. I can't recall the amount of updating that street study.
The update to the.
Yeah, the update.
The street study made returns for our funds.
Well, in our budget, we have
We include the sidewalk repair program.
no, there's the DBF. Either way, it's irrelevant.
I think it's part of the engineering contract. We break it
I
down.
think you're right.
It's currently on call.
Yeah, it's part of the.
I think you're right, but I think it was broken down in the original budget for adoption. I don't have that figure, but I really feel like we're looking at least the $50,000 mark if we were to have a study done on sidewalks. I don't know if you can really get it done for cheaper than that.
Well, I would say the sidewalks would likely be more expensive because someone's got to get out and walk them. Whereas a street, you can drive down and kind of make it.
Okay.
I don't know that. That's.
Jack has something to say.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, thanks. First off, let me just circle back that I'm for the 50-50 motion, if that's okay.
Yeah.
I just want to circle back to I'm for the 50-50 for commercial as well that we started this conversation. I like Councilmember Nurse's idea about some sort of review, a top review. I don't think that it should be on the council's body for that decision, but I'll let you all talk about that. And I'm just going to brush on this. I think that statement was great. I think it landed the way it was. It was delivered well. But if the town of Berlin is going to take over all the sidewalks, then we can circle back to the discussion about the town of Berlin taking over all the stormwater ditches. I'm not saying it now tonight, but
No, but it's a fair point. How are you going to pay for it?
Right.
Be here now, but things aren't being done because there is no money available.
So it's a big discussion.
And the money of the town, the taxpayer funds, is a public discussion, public process. There's not like there's hidden money anywhere. So when Ron says raise taxes, when Marie says a special assessment to get things done, how hard did we work as a body to keep $20,000 in the budget for this program, right? Now find me another.
What about a bond, for like a real capital investment type thing? That's where a bond would come from.
I mean, yeah, but you got to pay the debt service. You're right, but you got to pay the debt service.
Taxpayers are going to pay it one way or another. We need to think of the most efficient way to do it.
The way save
We're done at one time.
Save
Grant.
goal.
There's too much at once. I can't follow it all. If there's somebody that wants to address the mayor and council regarding this, they can. So.
You know, sometimes regardless, Benji, what I see is you guys are working really flexibly and innovatively. She spoke well. The town administrator has her points about how to codify things. This is how government works, but you can see it can get mired. Now, just as an observation, you know, from my point of view as a vet who took an oath to support and defend the Constitution, get all the enemies foreign and domestic, like who gets to decide who the domestic enemies of the Constitution are? So all you guys here took an oath on not just the federal Constitution, but the state, which is very, very strict on the rights of the people. Now, everything is about the people, right? So we have the legislative branch, which is the council, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The mayor votes on the council when it's split, correct? You are the executive. Town administrator serves at the pleasure of the executive. Essentially, you are the consultant to the executive, but she is not the executive herself. All of you guys are also executive. Now, you have 2 of the branches of government, but you lack a third unless you want to think of those guys as the judicial. However, they're not courts. And so you have legal considerations, and you need to check and balance yourselves. All right. You need to understand when the executive branch oversteps sort of their power, it's up to the legislative to check that. All right. Just so keep that in mind. And you don't have a court system to tell you to stop, to injunct you. So lawsuits are mentioned. That's how the people get their First Amendment right to redress, or rather petition to redress. But as I say, you guys are bound by the Maryland State Bill of Rights, which is called a Declaration of Rights, if I'm not mistaken. It's called something else. And they're very strict, guys, very, very strict. So when you come in the door, it's not just Zach Tyndall citizen, it's Zach Tyndall public servant. Okay? That's what that flag means to me. Now, I think we need to do some civics training. Okay, on transparency, you guys really need to watch conflict of interest. If the mayor wants to work in fire safety, building code, and life saving, which is super important because these guys here just told you they take 1,000 people to the hospital a year. These guys are the main thing. Fire's a big deal. Adkins burnt down in 30 minutes. It was a 7-alarm. Okay, we don't know how it happened. Now they want to put up apartments. Nobody asked us. This guy had to leave. Nobody wants apartments. I speak for Baker Street on that. Some of this stuff is me. The government, First Amendment, right? That's Nick. But I speak for Baker Street when I say nobody wants apartments. They don't want 40 units. They definitely don't want a parking lot. Okay? We liked Atkins. We love Rick Holland. We want to support Rick. But we think that he should be allowed to be, rebuilding a legacy business that's been there since 1908 that serves the community. So we just want to see more of I want to see more investing of the community, ideas, flexible ideas, because, hiring a consultant for everything, we can't afford it. These guys know where the sidewalk problems are. We can work together, right? We don't have to be so. I get the code people on me because, I was guilty. I told them that. And I worked with Shanita for a year. And she hit me again on July 1st. I got so upset. I went to the mayor's house on July 4th, knocked on the door, but all I'm looking for is a lever with you guys because I don't feel like I get hurt. Okay? And I have a note from Oak Park. It says, I've lived here 47 years through every mayor, every administration. I've always complained about the flooding of my yard and they never do anything. And I've been here 10 years and you haven't done anything. Or rather the TOB, we haven't done anything. It's really the truth. It's not any individual's responsibility. It's all of us. If citizens don't input anything, it's right for you guys to do it for them. But you can ask, you can put it online, you can say, you know, we're looking for solutions on how to get better sidewalks. Some of this is mandatory. We have to meet these compliance things, right? There's laws. And so the people need to know that so that they understand why, you know, it might look like the government's asking them to do something they don't want. And you know, just as thinking sort of outside of the box, you know, you didn't have a code officer for 10 years, and then you have a code officer, and the code officer's handing out chippy paint violations, and you're paying that person a good salary. I would point out you don't need to have a code officer. You can make a community housing coordinator. You can do a lot of things. This is America. You just have to have an executive, a legislative, and you have to have recourse to the courts, and everything else is optional. You got to have police and fire and all this stuff. But like,
Thank you. Can we,
okay, well, if you don't want to hear me, bro, you've made my life hard. Okay, if you want to work in consulting, you need to file with the state. Did you do that? Did you file with the state? Did you file with the state, sir?
can you go back over by your
Yes, I can. Did you file with the state? There's a form
Nick,
to protect you from liability.
Nick, hold on. So we are on the agenda item where it's the first reading for ordinance 2026-05.
Okay.
You've gone.
Did I say something that's not true?
But hold on. You've talked about a lot of different things. What I'm asking.
You've wasted a lot of time on bumpy sidewalks.
But what we can do is if we can table the other items for public comment, that would be helpful. So if you want.
Oh, this isn't public comment time? Oh, I'm sorry. I thought we were done.
No. I wish we were, but.
Oh, God,
during
I'm sorry,
public comment, you're more than welcome.
I thought you were getting all upset at me.
No, I'm not upset with you at all.
So, hold it, guys.
Thanks, Nick. All right, as Nick said, can we roll it to the next agenda item?
Well, I need to have a sense of what you want to see.
I think where we're at so far with this is the amendment to 171, so section 28, 171B2, changing the time from the minimum of 20 days to 45 days, adding procurement of services or the correction of the hazard, and keeping the maximum we had discussed. Is it 60 or are we going to 90 on that?
Like 90.
Okay.
45.
45 to 90. The next amendment was to remove all payment of permits or fees from, on page 31. Yep. So the removal of the owner will pay the town 50% of the estimated cost plus applicable permit fees. So we're just removing the applicable permit fees from there. And then I believe there was discussion in section 28, 172, new sidewalks for public safety, but I don't think there's a consensus on an amendment. Is that correct? And I think that's a summary. Oh, and adding a property owner may request a 12-month deferral.
But that's the hardship.
Yeah, it's a hardship. Yeah. And I think
Right,
those
I'll
are.
have to think about where to add that in.
Yes, making sure that, I don't know if we need to, I'll let staff determine.
I'll have to look and see if it differentiates. That was a suggestion on my part, but I'm not sure exactly what the language said.
That's okay. All right, I think that's where we're at. Let's move on. Oh,
For the record, Kim, you need to go to, and I'm not trying to add anybody's plate because plates are full, but I do, Miss Marie's summation, her thought, there are a few things in there that I would like to highlight I know that you have.
Mary has it, and she'll make it available to all of us.
So there are a few things that I think that we should highlight and discuss. The possibility of looking into ADA or IDEA, as you all may know it, grant funding possibly if that exists and what we can do, because I mean, our downtown area and the areas around our schools, and some of those, some finding out what's available out there, if there is anything, to help offset the cost of replacing and repairing some of these things.
I agree with that. All right.
I'm sorry. There's a lot of grants for the new school, like Safe to School, Safe Path to School. There's money. It's just sitting there.
So, and like, I'm not trying to create a committee here, but.
Yeah, but it's.
The thing is that if you find something that you think is applicable, go ahead and send it over. I will say that our team is very proactive on the grant side of things, but it doesn't mean that we see everything all the time.
Yeah,
So,
I did send you guys a couple of years ago a bunch of that information when they were talking about Buckingham. And I know the money's still there through the IOC. Yeah.
And some of that stuff requires like planning and like construction ready.
It all goes together.
Yep. So we haven't, doesn't mean that we haven't looked at those things and we just might not be ready for application. So, good point. All right. I think that's the consensus. Mary, you good?
On the ordinance, yes. The cost sharing program document included itself. Is there any discussion on that?
Okay. Anything on that? And that's the staff report.
Page 36.
36.
I mean, the idea of a cost sharing sounds great, but to hear that it's the first come, first serve, and one community, I'm not knocking these, right? But one community could literally wipe out the entire budget. That's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, their alternative is to do an assessment.
I think with the limited funding that we have, rather than, I think somebody had said, why put it to consultant? Nick, that might have been you. I mean, why not put the money into actual work and see if we can have a successful year of expending those funds? If not, we can always do a carry forward, and maybe that line item has more money in it for the following year. So, right, yeah, there you go. I think it's worth a try.
It is worth a try. I mean, I'm not saying, don't sound bites, I don't want this to appear that I'm saying I don't want this to happen. Today is Walnut Hill, and friends, if this can help you, let's share it out. But I'm thinking in my head, I don't have a crystal ball, but in 6 weeks or a month, it's going to be Henry's Knoll or the Green of something or the Acres of somewhere that are going to be in the same spot because they've got a tree or a
Little taxpayer.
something that did, and it happened to their sidewalk. So, and then we're going to be, and I'll leave that open right there. So, let's try it.
All right. I think we can move past the discussion on agenda item 4. Everybody feel comfortable? Okay, let's move on to the financial highlights. Our finance director, Natalie Soleil, going to run point. Thank you, Natalie.
Good evening, everybody. Before I go into actual discussion, just want to say that is very rough data, and normally we will do the half year. We kind of skip over with the move to the business center and everything was on the plate. So this is the year-end numbers, but as of right now, we're still receiving some revenues and we're still paying some expenses or some vendors still outstanding. So the numbers will change overall, and obviously in September we're going to have auditors. They will make final adjustments. So what I'm hearing here is just an overview of our funds as of right now, a snapshot of 6/30. The first one is the general fund, and it's pretty much a repeat slide for everything. So what is the general fund? What's the responsibility of general fund? The revenues pretty much come from taxes, services that are provided by the general fund. We do receive grants and intergovernmental revenues such as ACON and ANA. So all of the resources that we receive through the general fund are responsible for paying for general services, public safety, and general fund is operated a little bit different than other funds. It's a combination of, it's not like enterprise fund. It's a combination of accrual and on received revenues. Enterprise funds pretty much operate like this. For fiscal 26, we have budgeted for revenue $17 million around the numbers there. Of each, 2.8 was attributed to receive from the bond loan proceeds. That is for public works facility. We have spent a little bit, but not all, and we still have available funding out there. Are still in the finalizing stage of deciding design and everything else. The 3.8 is contribution from reserves. Now, this is a combination of either a carry forward projects that we have not completed in fiscal 25, or additional funds that we've allocated and transferred from capital reserve, for example, towards the town hall. So the number is an actual 10 million received as of today, showing that is a smaller than budgeted, but if we look at the bond received, the contribution from reserve, and the transfer from other funds, that was pretty much going to be close to what we budgeted. I'm still hoping that we receive a little bit more by the end of the close and completely closing of the year through the grants and maybe the property tax will level for the some city plus. The expenditures, we're way under, and not because we're saving lots and lots of money on each individual department, because we have not completed almost $7 million in capital projects. So there's big portions out there in our capital outlay account, budgeted 8.3, and we're like at 1.5, almost $2 million. The net change of 1.7 is a simple difference between what we collected in revenues and what we have expense. That amount does not mean that it will remain the same after all the adjustments will be made for the year, but as of right now, we can consider that as unassigned balance. This is just a simple visual presentation of revenues budgeted by source. Property tax is the largest and carries the most biggest amount and responsible for pretty much the entirety of the general fund. Contributed revenues is a transfers from reserve to carry forward projects that we have funded in the past and we just rebudgeted this year. Then we have grants and intergovernmental revenues, and then other sources kind of consist of small portions. The expense portion I'm just carrying forward to compare this fund balance. The fund balance of general fund is only applicable to the general fund. We had a large amount of non-spendable, which was interfund transfer from sewer and stormwater. Now we're down to stormwater, which is very good news. 103,000 left. Then we have restricted, one of them is the slots revenues. Restricted meaning it has a higher legislation on how money could be spent. We have committed fund consisting of impact fees, debt reduction, disaster recovery. Assigned fund is insurance, police forfeiture, capital stabilization, and community center. And unassigned balance, I'm using the same amount that I have right now, basically the balance between revenues and expenses just to compare. Fiscal 25 here, we have closed with 3.6 of unassigned, but most of it was because we have not completed most of the capital projects. Expenses by the categories were just budgeted expenses for fiscal 26. The public safety is the largest. Public safety here including police and fire and ambulance. The general government is all of our offices, and then we have each individual department responsible for their expenses here by the category. We don't carry recently a big amount of debt service, but if we were to close that bond that we have available to public works facility, that amount. Just a short description of each individual layer of the fund balance. I'm not going to go through that. I put in this slide every time just for this graph is representation. It helps us to understand where we started, where we've been in the past. In 2020, the red was non-spendable at the high level, and deficit because they've all gone. Hopefully, stormwater will be leveled very soon. So we can say that we don't have a non-expendable balance at all. Unassigned balance, I have mentioned, most likely will change as we close the year. And the rest is, as I discussed, consistent individual balance. Pretty much the same in the words, what we just said in the graph. As of right now, we have $11 million assigned, or restricted or committed. We have completed almost $1.6 million in capital projects which are on fund. The largest was the town hall renovation expense for fiscal 26, which is still ongoing project will continue. And we have some purchases for parks. Student Decatur Park comfort stations have completed. Purchase some vehicles. We have a multi-purpose building demolition, which is great, and biggest capital expense there. Community center feasibility study done, and we'll purchase that project as well. But you can see all the details about departments. So that's pretty much all for the general fund. If you have any questions.
Now, like just that first page, I just had a question. Other taxes, that's a nice surprise me to see that increase in revenues. What do you think those, what do you attribute that to?
Income tax. So the way it's structured, the projections that I have sometimes it derived from the current or future year, but then people of course file their tax. It could be 3 years delinquency, it could be an increase because they're falling in the higher brackets, and most of it also driven by commercial properties. So this.
Thank you.
Electric fund. Now I don't want everybody to look at the bottom number and say, oh my goodness, every single fund for the utility going forward is in the negative. Yes, it is right now in my presentation because we have not completed the finalized transfer for capital projects, whether we have not advanced all of the bond receipts or we have not pushed the reserves and covered the expense. So right now, electric, we have budgeted 6.6. In revenue, 6.7, 6.4 was collected as of right now. That pretty much will not change. It is a slight decrease. And sales and services, the line item right there, you see a big decrease, but that's because we've planned to help bigger developments like we had lower and we had hotel and all that is still kind of on lower. So that's part of it. For the expenses, there is a increase in purchase power. Purchase powers did go up, so it cost us more to purchase power and distribute through the grid. As of right now, this 1.1 is a negative, but like I said, if we look at the bond loan receipt for the AMI metering and contribution from reserve, that number should be close to positive by the end of 2018. So AMI metering was one of the biggest projects that was ongoing for a couple of years. It is completed right now. We're still working on small outstanding items, but as of right now, we have drawn the full amount of funds that we had available for this project. And this is the power plant and electric fund capital projects with a vehicle and generator purchased. As I mentioned, the AMI meter. They did purchase a big bucket truck, so those parts were expensive fiscal 26, but the actual truck expense was one of the biggest projects completed. I just want to show you the picture. This is smart metering. Very, very good and multi-year planned project that we have. I'm very proud of the department that we're filing in AMI metering and not manual reading.
Especially because we had the failure of all the devices we were recording on paper. So now I do want to go back, if you don't mind, to the financial statement for the electric utility. I want to note that if you look at the prior year closeout in the negative, and you look at this year, although the changes aren't there, the margin is extremely tight on our electric utility. We do, it's in the budget, but we really need to get a new rate study completed and through the Public Service Commission, because that fund, when I started on the council, was always a very high performing fund. But keep in mind, without going back to that rate case analysis, the inflation costs are just absorbed by the electric utility and not really captured in the cost recovery. So
That's correct. Also, what we faced them before, we used to have a forecast of purchase power up to 10 years for lock the prices and have a contract in place. Right now, nobody would give a contract, maximum 5. So it's very demanding and also challenging because lots of more regulations coming in place for solar and wind power and everything else there. The electric fund had closed in negative 25 the first time, very long time. But looking at their invoices, looking at their expenses, everything's triple the price. The electric equipment and in general, just even small tools are very expensive.
thank you.
Water fund, again, don't be alerted by big number because the major projects for water fund is lead replacement and lead replacement inventory, which would be funded by the grant loan receipts. The grant loan receipts is a combination of loan/forgivable loan, which would have to carry a small amount of debt service, but eventually would be given. We have not completed all of it, it's still in the process, but we also have not received any funds from those. So the $2 million was slotted to be received from grant loan for the lead replacement. We have not gotten that yet. But looking at their actual operating revenues, it's within the line. Water services a little bit less, but I think we still have a little bit of reporting to do, finding reads and June month's activities. So that potentially drop. Sewer fund, there is a small negative, even though there is no contribution from reserve being reported yet, which is a very good positive note out here for the sewer fund. The longest was struggling to balance the fund. Budgeted at 3.8, collected 3.2 in revenues. Again, there is a slight decrease in service charges, but also there is a huge decrease in special connections. And those are responsible for debt payment, and also we have allocated them in the past for capital projects. So EDU carries a big responsibility for capital and debt for the sewer fund, and we have not received. Overall, it's a small decrease, but I do believe it will balance itself. Projects for water and projects for sewer. We have budgeted a lot more, not expensed all of them. Water fund, there is a capacity plan that they started, it's not completed, purchased the truck. Paladin Avenue Boathouse completed in the amount of $455. Franklin Avenue, Water Tower, and well number 2, those were pretty much a carry from the repairs. Smart meters project has been completed and all funded by our grant. And as I mentioned, lead inventory replacement is 3 stages, biggest project going on for water. It's been dated, there's no way out of it, and it's a lot of money spent. Sewer fund purchased back truck, West Street pump station, is an excavator, is a high tide lift station generator purchase, and small amounts for basically the equipment that we use. Smart meter projects completed. That's another big project which worked out really well, and I think in the future it will help us a lot because there are losses and benefits.
before we go to stormwater. The water fund and I believe the sewer fund are in a similar position as the electric utility. We have a study that's in this year's budget to evaluate the costs along with billing per gallon rather than per 1,000 gallon. So people that conserve water would likely see a reduction in their bills. But we got to be able, since we have the new meters that can now read per gallon, and read much better than that, but per gallon, we need to update a funding model for the billing side of things.
It's actually at the beginning stage for collective information, send it to the engineer. Fund, we have a positive as of right now. We have not completed capital outlay at all. It's just a little bit spent, as well as grant loan receipts were not received. So if we are to complete everything as a like perfect scenario, the fund probably would be met, but the capital projects. The revenue for the service charges are down. The expenses for personnel down, which is helping, but pretty much everything else within as was budgeted except capital projects. There were some capital projects who were expenses, Hudson Branch, administered empty storm drains, and flood mitigation where capacity plant is still ongoing. There's a small amount. So that's all I have. First one, back to the slide.
I just want to say thank you for putting this together. I know that depending on when we've asked you to put it on the agenda versus, hey, Natalie, can we shelf that? We really appreciate you putting it on and going through the information with all of us. It goes a long way.
And if I can just say real quick, every year, you know, I say I love the graphs, I love the picture, I love the numbers. You always do a great job, so I thank your team for that. And I also, I picked up, there was the 2 minutes of stormwater glory there, and then, and then we really down the line. But, it is what it is, but thank you so much for putting all of it.
Let's see, any other questions or comments for Natalie regarding the financial highlight? Okay, let's move on. Thank you, Natalie. Let's move on to items for approval. So agenda item 6, we'll start with agenda item 6A. Notice went out to the public this afternoon that we are going to push the furniture proposal to the August 10th meeting. And the reason for that, it took several months for us to compile the furniture presentation that was brought here before the council and to the public for consideration. With that, we had asked the team to turn around a whole new proposal in a period of 2 weeks, a little less than that, which is why the packet went out with the cover page saying that it'll be available when the information is available. The team asked on Friday if I wanted to push it, and I was like, no, let's see what we get on Monday. Well, unfortunately, we didn't get the information that we needed to make the presentation this evening. The reason I was really wanting to hold that was because we're up against a timeline for the work to be completed at Town Hall, and we need to place the furniture order soon. Otherwise, we're going to have a completed building with no ability to occupy it. So on the 10th, I'm optimistic that we should be able to have another proposal for consideration for the council and the public.
So the meeting's on the 10th. Can we, I don't want to, can we shoot to have the numbers like
the Wednesday before? That's the goal. Yeah. That is the goal. That was the goal this go around too.
All right.
But yes, that's the ideal version of that, is that it would go live to the public and available to the council the Wednesday before. All right. So let's see. Agenda item 6B, motion 2026-44. MDOT 3-year SALT agreement, and the town administrator, Barry Boland, and our public works director, Jimmy Charles, are going to run through it.
This is fairly self-explanatory. It's the same agreement that we entered into 3 years ago. The not to exceed number is $45,000. We have never come anywhere near that. But even this year, with all the ice and snow, I think we actually in the last 3 years, we expended a total of like 11 million. So it's quite a bit over what we actually expect. But
is there Is there a cost difference between the salt and the ability to get brine from the county? I know we don't have the equipment. I'm just asking the question before.
Again, we don't have the equipment to even go.
But is the cost cheaper, or is it going to be somewhat of a wash?
The thing about the salt is, when you put the salt down, you can always put that down. Brine could get washed away, free to a snow. You had a rain before it rained, before the snow, it could actually wash the brine away. So I think.
More expensive than brine than salt.
Okay.
It's actually probably a lower cost, but for us to go get it, because if you take a small amount and mix it with water, I know, but the thing is, we have to put a $30,000 piece of machinery on the back of the truck. Now that we maybe just stay with salt, because we have 4 or 5 salt trucks, and we'll have an additional one this year. So.
Yeah, the challenge before was that the salt would overflow out of the truck. But now I think we've got a solution.
Yes, we actually, but we have a solution.
Any other questions for?
One quick note on the last page, this was the copy they sent, it says Caroline, we could correct that.
Thank you.
So the signed copy would be correct.
Do we have any questions or comments from the council? Okay, any public comment regarding agenda item 6B, motion 2026-44? Seeing none, we'll take action by the council. So I have a motion by Councilmember Orris, second by Councilmember Nichols. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, let the record reflect the vote unanimous with all council members present. All right, up next is agenda item 6C, motion 2026-45, DBF proposal for Heron Park Access Road Design and Permitting. Town administrators on paper are going to run point, but her and I are going to tackle it together. What you have in here this evening is a proposal by DBF to enhance the design work of the roadway for Heron Park to a further level to allow us to take the design where it is now to a point where it's more shovel ready, and more specifically will allow us to be able to get the elevations needed for the roadway and the town's portion of the roadway and the developer tie-in to a place where they need to be. So the scope of work is in the packet starting on page 73. The representatives from CBP are here this evening. What I would ask the council is, with your consideration, if you do choose to move this along, that in the agreement, and Palmer and Sandy can talk in a moment if that's what they would like to do, but in the agreement, it states that the town is, that the developer is responsible for the cost of the curb cuts associated with the new roadway. So with that being said, there is a little bit of a cost associated with that we recommend keeping with the nature of the agreement. I believe that's approximately $5,000. Is that your recollection as well, Mary?
Yes.
So if there's any questions by the council, if not, we'll open it up to the public, and Palmer and Sandy, if they have anything they want to ask.
I don't have a question about the curb cuts, but on on page 74, the last paragraph.
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
Side
You're fine. Yes, Mary. Yes, Mary.
I just wanted to make sure that I understand it here. So it's reading excluded from the proposal is the development design of stormwater management plans, submission of the plans to the town's stormwater management on-call engineer. It is our understanding that we do DPF that
For stormwater?
for in this last paragraph. I just want to make sure that's it's our understanding that BMG and private design engineer will be handling stormwater permitting and all projects and infrastructure on site. Is that
So
that we're all on the same page?
all right. So, well, maybe not. The current, and this has been shared with CBP as well, the current drawings show outfall leaving parcel 57 regarding stormwater. The town stormwater engineers, EA engineering, needs to work with CBP to make sure that whatever their final drawing is compliant, and make sure that it adheres to the town standards.
So then I guess EA will be communicating directly with CBP, or are we gonna run into that?
Well, the town has presented options to the developer for how we can overcome that challenge. And the recommendation is to take the cost of what the projected solution to meet with the two entities, in this instance, EA and whoever on CBP's team, right? That the taxpayer not be burdened by those costs because they're really developer costs. So that in order to have that interaction, that CBP would eat those costs one way or another. And we've sent a couple ideas about how to overcome that, and we still remain committed to working together for that. Does that help?
I can try to address that if you'd like.
I mean, go ahead.
We responded to your comment a couple weeks ago regarding the stormwater management. We had already submitted a redesign to EA Associates. They've conceptually approved it. I think they're close to finalizing approval, but the comment that was made by Emily and yourself has been corrected since that time. So there's no outfall to any city infrastructure whatsoever. It's finishing that. It's completely standalone. In regards to the design of the curb cuts, we will design those ourselves and submit them to DBF for approval. But you have two agencies here, EA Associates and DBF and Associates. So we can, if we're allowed to, respond to the appropriate authority. Right now, EA Associates has the final stormwater management. We have approval from Worcester County Soil Conservation at this point. So the ball is in the town's lap at this point. We have addressed that issue with EA Associates.
So let me make sure I'm understanding.
They go to the railroad tracks and not to,
correct. Yeah,
and
so
not to the cul-de-sac.
correct. So the original design was to shift the stormwater to the ditch behind parcel 410.
Not exactly. It was distributed over multiple outlets.
But the outfall was to the town road and to behind the ditch behind parcel 410.
There was multiple discharge points. What we've done 4 weeks ago was redesign it so it all goes to basically the same ditch that we used for Berlin Main Place 25 years ago. So, I mean, there's no contribution of discharge to any city property, and EA Associates has that design.
And I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying from the sense of where the outfall is now. What I'm saying to the council is that we bring on engineers through EA that we trust for stormwater management. We should continue to allow them to make the decision and advise us as to whether this is compliant with the best practice for the town of Berlin.
Right, and it sounds like EA has that, so we're good to go.
I'm not going to say that.
On any development,
So we're moving
EA reviews and approves or makes comments
Correct.
on stormwater. That's
Correct.
Correct, but I want to just make sure we're saying the same thing. That we had a meeting with CBP regarding outfalls. Then now the outfall has changed. I have not. We need to confer with EA as to where that's.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
That answers my question.
Okay. Now regarding the curb cuts, Palmer just stated that. Can you repeat what you said about?
We will, and we have and will design the curb cuts, so there'll be no expense to the town. We will submit those to DBF for their review, comments, and approval.
So DBF has commented to the town thus far on the surface and said that it's our best interest as the municipality to make sure that the elevations of grade, that any development of an adjacent parcel that's going to tie into the roadbed, that it meets our elevation for construction and not the other way around. We talked a little bit this evening about what happens with maybe some plans that don't go well with like Walnut Hill. It's important that we listen to the guidance of our engineers and make sure that any tie-in points associated with the roadbed meet the elevation and grade of that.
You're 100% correct. There has been some professional courtesy between Parker Associates and DBF. Months ago, they really actually have the control points, have had them for quite a long time. But now you're saying that you need them, which they already have. So there's been, like I say, I want to say back channel professional courtesy between Parker Associates and DBF. So that's kind of already completed, but you can confer that with Nick and Josh at DBF.
My direction and recommendation to the council is that if you approve the DBF quote that's here this evening, that if there is along the way a cost, that we continue to live up to the nature of the agreement and that the town pays its responsibilities and the developer pays their responsibility. I think I've covered everything that we were supposed to cover.
If I could ask, how close are we to an actual settlement?
I would like to go to settlement next week. There's been some more hiccups with the plats. Hopefully that'll be corrected this week, I believe. I think we've addressed all the impediments that Emily has presented in a letter we received. She's on vacation till tomorrow, so we're hoping to receive a response from her tomorrow. We've provided our evidence of financing. We've met all the criteria. We have Worcester County Soil Conservation approval. We would like to go to settlement this week. We're ready to go.
So I think from the town's perspective, what I would say is that both parties have been working diligently to get to settlement. I think we had some points that needed to make sure that we had them addressed. And I believe that everybody's progressing toward the area where we need to go, which is ultimately settlement.
I'd like to follow up by saying we have been representing for quite a long time that the access road is in full tilt design. And I'm hopeful that the council will approve this motion tonight for this to make sure that our representations to prospects is accurate. So we would appreciate your support for the town's funding of the access road design.
With that, I feel like there's a point and counterpoint each time. I'm sorry to do that, but it's important that we get the town stance on the record that the word, and we got hung up on this internally on our discussions about what the word design means, right? And working with different granting agencies, design means different things, right? Like we work with the State Highway Administration and design could be 30%. We work with the Federal Highway Administration and design could be 60%. So the word design is very ambiguous, right? With that being said, in our agreement, it says the town will design the roadway. The roadway has been designed conceptually. And with that, we need to take it, as Palmer noted, to the next level, right? Because it's not right for the town to ask CVP to continue along their endeavor of developing the property with the timelines that we've asked them to comply with, without us also making the forward step to be able to say, hey, look, if we're going to ask you to bring your project to our elevation, we should be able to tell you what that is, right? So that makes logical sense, and this proposal gets us a little bit further toward that process. All right. Any questions by the council? Any further public comment? Okay. Can we get action by the council?
Approve 2026-45.
So I have a motion by Councilmember Nur, a second by Vice President Burrell. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, let the record reflect the vote's unanimous with all council members present. Thank you. Thank you. All right, up next is agenda item 7, Town Administrator's Report and Departmentals. They're in the packet. Go ahead, Nick.
I don't have anything specific myself. I'm going to turn it over to Jimmy, who's going to talk about trash.
All right, go ahead.
There was a handout tonight. I wanted to bring in our constant evaluation of sanitation and the process of picking up trash each week. The last months, 6 months or so, we've seen a volume where we're actually going twice a week to a specific location. When we've gotten to this location on a Friday, all 11 trash cans are filled at capacity. I showed pictures over the months of even above the trash can lids are open, trash on the ground. And it's just, and then when we come in on Monday, it's the same thing. I've shown numerous pictures of Fridays and Mondays, but we're only paying for one service, one pickup, but we're actually doing it twice a week. And I'd like to at this point, send them a notice that it will either, we will go back to once a week trash pickup, and then they have the option of paying for an additional pickup to, pay for the service of what they're of what we're providing to them. And, it's coming a hardship when it proves. This trash is very, very heavy. It's always heavy. It's very, hard. It's taxing on the taxpayers is where that final, lighting is coming down. So
Jimmy, can I ask you, much time to cut you off? When you pick it up, is it still, like, do they bring it curbside? Or is it against the building still when you guys go?
it's still against the building. So we're walking into, and again, these trash cans are very, very heavy. And it's not, it's a repeat every week, every Friday, every Monday. It's a repeat process. And we're just not getting the payment for the volume of trash that we're picking up. And we've had discussions, we keep hearing, oh, well, give us some more cans.
So the taxpayers are actually subsidizing this trash thing. Why can't we say, because it sounds like to me that this endeavor is beyond our capability. Why can't we just say, we're done and you need to contract with someone to move your trash?
So what we're doing here is we're gonna provide 5 more weeks of service. And we're asking them, they came in and spoke with us, but we've asked them September 1st that you need to have your own commercial service. We just didn't want to cut it off right away. We want to give them some time. And again, we tried to work with them and say, hey, you're overloading us.
Is this the same group that came in with the restaurant traffic?
Yes.
Aren't they supposed to come back to us with a recommendation?
We're
Why
hoping to come back.
Why are we even considering that?
Well, we had extended that opportunity to them. I just wanted to know, are they coming back with a proposal?
We talked about that.
We asked them to come back sometime in August meetings.
Yeah.
Preferred the second meeting, and then that way
They did prefer the second,
share.
or they prefer the second.
Well, we would prefer the second, but whatever works.
My thought on it is that I want to really give them the opportunity to speak, if that's what we said to them. Now, I don't disagree that it's challenging and that we need to have a plan, but I would even say bring them in on the 10th.
Yeah.
That way we get more, I don't know, Sarah, could we help communicate that to them? Maybe Ivy's team, I think, was best, but let's try to get them here on the 10th so that we're not moving the needle to the end of the month. And in the interim, what I would suggest is see if we can pull a couple of those cans. So we have a sample weight, whether we put them on the trailer, we run it down, I don't know what we do. But that way we have an idea of because tipping fees are one of the biggest, you might think, what's the value and the weight of a can? It's a lot.
Yeah.
We spend over $200,000 a year. Yeah, in tipping fees. That's taking the trash to the landfill just to get rid of it. So, yeah, tipping fees. It's what the county charges us to unload the truck. So if we're talking about a cost recovery, whether that's commercial trash cans that are getting extra lifts, or whether that's the trash can that, as the homeowner, you buy a second can, we need to have an idea of what this sample weight could be so we can make sure the cost is there as well.
What are they paying now for commercial trash pickup?
We're paying $150 per can.
Per order?
Per quarter.
But I was told by one of the operators that they started paying for twice a week pickup. Never? No.
That's what he's asking.
Right. Yeah, so that's what I would like to see us start charging twice a week pickup and not suspend service.
They're getting twice a week pickup, they're not paying for twice.
That's why we're
For it.
Right.
Well, we're paying our year in August, run through the month just to give them that courtesy time.
No, they have courtesy, they've been working.
No, we're asking to pay for in August for the pickups that we're going there, but then give them the opportunity to get their own trash service.
Okay, so start the
Spending
payment
the service.
effective immediately.
Start
And then
Monday.
at
Yeah.
the same time, they're on the move looking for their new trash pickup person.
I'd like,
My recommendation is that the town charge more than what a commercial business would charge to pick the trash up. We should not be offering it cheaper.
well, but how about this in the interim, right? Because there is a cost, right? So with the intent was to send this effective Monday. So what happens if we let folks know that like, we are going to pick your can up once. If you want us to pick it up twice, this is what it's going to cost. And by the way, you said you were going to come in and talk to us. Let's have that conversation. That way we're not suspending the service. But I don't even know, does anybody get their can commercially picked up for like an extra time? I don't know what that cost would be.
Yeah, that's a week.
Part of the issue though is gonna be volume. You can tell them we're gonna pick it up once, but they're still gonna have the trash.
Right,
So I'm gonna be looking at maps on Monday morning because I look at it every.
Or do we table it until they come in?
Yeah, I would like to see this table until they come in.
The 10th, well, that's really what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Like, we need them here on the 10th.
Can't we just send this letter out saying we're gonna have a meeting on the 10th regarding this and our president is
Required, not even
required.
We can't require,
I just-
we can't require.
But I think that would be better because of everything we just talked
Well, I'm not 100% on board with this last, the town will just continue this whole trash collection.
about. Well,
Well,
So I
we
don't
need to
think
have,
it's go out yet.
I don't know if we need a letter. We already have the folks that came forward that said that they were gonna come back with a solution.
but there were
I
other
want-
people who reached out to me who weren't in that group.
Then let them know to come on the 10th. I mean,
Right.
Come on the 10th.
you know what I mean?
With the proposal.
Yeah, we need solutions on the 10th.
Yeah. I think there's layers to this.
Because this is the town's perspective solution.
All right.
We want to hear what is brought forward because they're the ones that do it every day.
Right.
Our challenge from our folks that do it every day is we're picking it up twice when we're supposed to pick it up once. The cans are heavy. Tipping fees have gone up. You're not covering your share of the bargain. Right? Is that a summary?
Yes.
So we need solutions to address that.
And I think when we talked about this,
Clarify for us, we start sending extra invoices in Monday or not.
I would let it be until the 10th. We should have some between now and the 10th is not going to hurt us. I know it's extra work,
Right.
but it is not going to hurt us. We
Yes,
can
it
make
will.
it to there. What's that?
Yes, it will, and it's been hurting.
Um,
Tell me how much they're paying.
They're paying $150, so, we use an example, they're paying $150 per quarter per can. One business has 4 cans, so obviously they're paying,
Whatever the
$600
math is.
per force.
per quarter, but they're probably producing $1,000 per quarter.
at
The
least,
volume is
Sure thing.
at least.
Get a sample.
at least.
So,
Is
so,
there the ability to
so I'll give you a
larger
number if you want.
Containers.
Hold on one second, Councilman Rivera. and-
Yeah.
Can you handle larger containers so we wouldn't have to have so many small cans?
We do not, have that. We used to have it with the metal container, when we used to have 6 and 4 yard and 6 yards. A lot of them cans were starting to rust out. Each of them cans were, say, I don't even know, but they were like $8,000 to $9,000 for a new one. A lot of them already had holes in the floor. That's why we discontinued it. Plus, that's a service where we got guys, it's lifting up in the back of the truck. It's not a safe practice.
Yeah.
The truck is an older truck. We were looking at, it was more efficient to use the tippers, and then our automated truck can come in areas and help too.
We had such few customers too. That the thing was, is that the costs, we had run that service just about as far, if not further, than what the equipment could go.
Right.
And now that there was going to either be a substantial investment in equipment for such a few users, or we cut the service.
Something in outside.
We had 6, we had like 6 customers using the dumpsters. And we didn't raise the rates to accommodate the fees in that, the volume in that trash.
David, you had something?
well, I was just gonna tell you, so what the fire company pays for a 4-yard dumpster,
which we can only have 800 pounds in it. If they put it on there and that scales over, you know, we pay about $340 for a weekly pickup.
Does ours do that? Does the new?
I mean, well, $340 for the month, but it's a weekly pickup.
Okay.
So you're talking, so you need to get your weight. I think the mayor
Yes,
needs
no,
to weigh one of them rascals.
But even getting the waste, it sounds like.
We can weigh, we can
This
weigh a
place-
certain amount of cans. I can take them down and get them weighed.
A sample
So
size.
we don't have, these.
We don't have to
today,
get.
they pick them up and they know exactly how much in that.
Yeah, I love
It
that.
sounds like to me, we do not have the capacity to continue to serve this place.
Right.
We have the weapons.
I think that it would be prudent to get more information on the 10th. I like the draft. I would say that this is good, except we need to be able to fill in the blank. I mean, good from the sense of a starting point. Except what we really need to be able to do is fill in the blank of what it would cost for an additional can to be serviced, whether that's residential or commercial. Let's start with the commercial one.
But again, I don't, like, there's times that we don't always want to go there twice a week. It's a service that we're not always benefiting at $150 per can. So.
You're right now going twice a week, and they're still, when you come in the next day, it's overflowing.
Correct. And that's why we're trying to somehow eliminate this area, because the volume, we're not making money off of it.
Then I think what we need to strike is well, I think if that's the case, right? Then we need to, hold on, everybody. I think this is an important point for us to discuss. If what I'm hearing from Public Works is that we really can't handle the additional pickup with the personnel and equipment that you have, then I think we need to remove the idea of an additional pickup.
Correct. The additional pickup was just to get to September.
Yeah, I think
Everything here was to get it to September 1st, to get them, to have their own.
so. Really, the discussion needs to be how we can get them to segue away from commercial trash service. When we talk about commercial trash service, I recall the group that came up here. We were talking food waste, right?
Mhm.
Is this still what we're talking about?
Yeah.
Right.
Because,
Yes.
but hold on, because some other commercial entities, where do they take their trash? Like, let's say somebody has a little boutique shop. They take their trash where?
Some of them have them in certain locations that they designate. We don't designate the location. We let them designate it where it's at. And then we will pick them up. Some are in the Barrett parking lot. We go through there. They have their own designated boutique shops and stuff.
So now with that, is there an overload on the operations that you see associated with this for that type of commercial trash service?
No.
Okay, so we really have to differentiate that what we're talking about is like food waste.
Correct.
Okay, so the topic of discussion on the 10th is going to be commercial food waste pickup.
And the vermin that come with it, which is freaking me out, just thinking about it, because I'm shaking just thinking about, don't say the word, please, people. It makes my heart pound.
We're pretty sure we're talking about just.
So we're just talking about like if a restaurant uses town
restaurants.
with that.
A lot of trash cans in town.
Well, some restaurants have the dumpsters.
Right.
And some restaurants have the waste wheelers like what we have residentially. Some have both, right? And what we're really talking about here that's being brought to our attention is the restaurant food waste that is being put into a town receptacle that is designed for really residential use.
Right.
So, okay. I
Yeah,
think
that's what I was wondering about this blanket commercial trash, because there's the buildings behind Island Creamery, right, and they have cans, right, that we service, but it's not as prevalent, right? It's not as much of a problem.
Correct.
Yeah. Well, I walk every morning and I watch them. That's the difference between Sunday morning and Monday morning is mouths. Right. And it's the farmer's market.
Yes.
So frankly, if I watch it, I see it. It's not all the farmer's market, of course, but there are a lot of, you'll see, coffee cups in there. It's tons of coffee cups. I know it's not the waste that we're talking about, but I believe if we remove it, I'm just concerned about it, frankly. But you know, and I also think there seems to be, I think there are some people. There's at least one business that thinks they're paying twice a week. They're paying $680 a quarter. It just went from 600 to 680 on their bill. So I was like, oh, maybe that's an effort. I thought maybe that was an effort that we were making over trying to recoup some of the cost. That's 680 for 4 occasions from 600.
But that's why.
That's a good quarter. I like that. It's like, oh, maybe we're making efforts to try to recoup the costs. So I think that's everything that you've said, direction, I'm good with. I would prefer the letter definitely not go out yet until we have them in. But I just think I was under the impression that there was talk about taking that existing half can up to a full can to see if that addressed some of the litter that we were seeing. But I don't know if that was done yet.
Let me try to make sure I'm following.
That was a private. There's a few businesses that share a dumpster.
Gotcha.
Behind the big lot.
Yeah.
They were going to talk about taking it up from, I say it's a half or a quarter, whatever it was, doubling it.
With their commercial vendor.
Yes,
Gotcha.
with their private commercial vendor to help address the overflow. Because I totally hear you. And it's an eyesore. You drive and walk by and you see tractor and on the ground.
I want to understand the coffee cups though, because I'm not.
I'm just saying.
My brain's not following the.
Yeah, I'm moving back, but I'm just saying that the farmers market is responsible for a lot of our waste.
But hold on. So the stuff that we're talking about here is related to like if Jack, he has an HVAC company, this, that, and the other. Now he has a restaurant, and then he's dumping all of his food related waste in a can. And then we're going to pick it up. That's what I feel like the topic of the tent is. When you say the coffee cups, are you talking about like out on like the street cans?
In the problem area.
So Zach, I'll tell you, I'm guilty of it. I go get a sandwich and a coffee, and I park in the back behind the Masonic Lodge. And I do. I walk through. If there's cameras, it's got me every week that I go. I slip up the lid, and I throw my wrapper from the Masonic Lodge sandwich and my coffee cup in there, and keep on, get in my vehicle with my produce goodies and go home.
People see it trash.
Would you rather me throw it on the ground? And I'm not the only one.
Well, we're not talking about the float, right?
Real clear. This new one in March and April too.
Yeah.
And even before.
So David, you're off the hook.
We can say what it is, yes. We won't say there's not coffee cups, but the volume has been there for months. And we've asked them, and we get, well, we'll take our trash over to this half dumpster that they're sharing. But it's not. And we have pictures that go back into April, March, April, May. I had pictures where they were Friday and Mondays. And even though the farmers market's going on, we have cans for the farmers market we are actually up to 8 cans for the farmers market. Mm-hmm. And they're in locations. So yes, there might be one of them vendors might be throwing into that can, but that is not overloading that particular area. Okay. And actually there's a business on the front part that has a can in that area, and their can is always overloaded with the food stuff. And it's understandable. Somebody comes back, this is full, this is full, this is full. They hit the empty one and they throw it in.
And that's what I do. I get
we're just
thanks for throwing your trash away.
And it is just so hard on we got to pull the can to the street. It's hard on our equipment because this weight it's a huge problem.
Okay. I think we've got a pretty good direction. Oh, I'm scared. Anything else on the department? Anything else? Okay. Anything else from the council regarding the track? If not, any other departmental reports that need to come out that are not in the packet? Any questions for department heads regarding the reports that are in your packet? Okay, let's move on. Comments from the public. Anyone that would like to address the mayor and council? Nick, this is the open time. Okay. But there is a time limit. We're not usually strict on it, but just try to be concise.
Look, first of all, I've laid all my cards out. The only thing left is tracks and yaks. And the only reason I complain about this stuff is because, I don't have a lot of lever for the drainage. So for 10 years, our yard gets flooded. And when I bought the house, I shook the man's hand. He said, congratulations on buying Lake Berlin. He said, don't worry. if they clear the ditches, it flows, and that is true. So even on like, it can't handle 5 inches, but it can handle 3, and that's all like the state, those reverse hieroglyphic manuals require for water detention. But we don't want to be the town's water detention facility. There needs to be a more cohesive plan on that. And I've seen a lot of great things about government here. You guys all do a great job. I salute everybody personally, but it's just like the big picture is there's too much to do. And so if there's grievances from the town on like trench and stuff that's been ongoing, this is not the appropriate place. So I talked to Steve about it, and I talked to the police, and we want to do a grievance meeting. And I don't want it to just be me anymore, because I don't want to be this guy. I do speak for my neighbors, because I went around and I talked to them, and I asked anybody have a problem in my house, like, is it looking bad? And they said, no, we like what you're doing, it looks great, but I still have junk in my back. So, I mean, I have no problem with Shanita. Shanita's been awesome, okay? She's lovely, and I have no problem with the women in the office. However, I just want to point out that DEI is not the law, equal op is the law. And if you have 5 women, no men, that the chances of that are like what, 1 in 32 if you flip a coin. Getting all heads 6 times would be 1 in 64. It's not random, right? So you have to justify that, and you have to protect yourselves from a lawsuit, because they're not going to sue the mayor and council, especially if the state gives you sovereign immunity, which they might, but they're going to shame you guys for doing stuff like conflict of interest. So you have to demur yourself from stuff if you work in that field. Even if it's kosher, you have to just do the stuff that government requires, or and that's what America's all about. So redress of grievance, I wanted to point out, the other thing is, the big picture here is half the town of Berlin is being run on gifts from other taxpayers. In other words, grants from the state, from the federal government, people who don't live here but pay taxes, and those are redistributed here. That's what you're getting, okay? Ms. Boland does a great job. Mayor, you're right. You don't need to codify everything. You don't have to jot every I and cross your T. You can work some flexibility into the law. You can work things like hardship. All of that was really great. And your comment also was great, that when something is really severe and you have these layers of protection, some stuff needs to go straight to the top. When it's really gnarly, like some of these code violations are very heated. And I went in their office and I didn't know like how it worked. And so I went in there and I lipped off to the young girl. She's the face of the company now. She's your face to the public, the angry men that go in there. And I made her cry. I went back, they called the police, and I didn't mind. They said, listen, it wasn't exactly a crime, but if I get angry enough, somebody could say that's threatening, and I don't want to be that guy. So, typically I've gotten angry because I feel like we're never heard, especially on Baker Street, where a lot of stuff has happened, a big fire, a death on tracks and yaks, a company that nobody seemed to have vetted. And that man, Adam Forshee, this is on Facebook, Adam Forshee is criminally negligent for killing a man. Okay, they had no emergency plan, no defibrillator training, no defibrillator. They hired unqualified kids. And Mayor, that kind of thing is an accident waiting to happen. And that person died right outside of town limits in the county. Now you got to mess with the county. Okay, and somehow it involves the railroad, who never shows up to clear the ditches. And okay, I didn't ask for that problem. It showed up at my door. So that's the only thing I have. Those are all my complaints. I just want to have a grievance meeting, and I want that to be scheduled tonight at your convenience, not mine. And I'll show up, and I want to have Steve there, and really anybody who wants to show up, honestly. But I need to be heard, because I do talk to a lot of people, and they're kind of scared to voice their grievance. And so I have some stuff in writing, some stuff just oral, but it can be informal. But I feel like regular grievance meetings are the way to kind of buffer the pain. And a lot of this, stuff when government has a lot of burden and the people are burdened and they don't want to pay, you're going to have conflict. And Steve and I talked about some options for, insulating the town from that kind of backlash for, say, like a community liaison type of thing, maybe volunteers who could help people who have houses that are in disrepair, because so few houses honestly are. Most of them are amazing. So to have a full-time code person for a few bad apples, maybe we could do something better there. Okay, those are all my points.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
Yeah, okay. And yeah, that's it. And I like the idea of, active plans. I heard 50-50 splitting costs. Those are good ideas. That's the way government can work, unless there's a law that says it can't. And just to point out, everything just has to run by those three branches, people. That is, if the Congress does it, you can do it. If the president does it, you can do it. But, maybe not this president, because he flexes a lot of executive muscle, as have previous presidents, to the chagrin of the people in the other party who prefer their party president to flex all the executive muscle and the other guy to be tightly bound by a very strong constitutional commitment. Okay. And that's the reason I stand up and talk. And thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right. Anyone else that would like to address the mayor and council? Maybe do so at this time.
Mayor Kotlansky, Westminster Drive.
Thank you.
Just a couple of questions. On that stormwater fund, the capital project asset, there's numbers like Hudson Branch Drain Restoration for 22.5 and 7,700 for Westminster. What are those numbers?
That's basically engineering fees, just the beginning of the project.
Okay, because I added up the EA engineering fees for this project and went back to 2024, and they run between 178,000 to 238,000. So I'm not sure, is this like just broken down for this year?
It's only 1 year.
For 1 year. And my other question, there hasn't been a credit card statement posted since June 5th, since June 8th. Is there, can they?
Right now we run it on shifting from one fiscal year to another. So the credit card transactions we separated now. Because the credit card runs half months to half months. There's a little bit of manual work going on there. The credit card transaction and separated to fiscal year.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else? Okay. Anyone else that would like to address the mayor and council? Maybe so at this time.
I brought this up to
Just name and street.
Marie DeLong,
Thank you.
West Street. I just wanted to say that there's missing trash cans at the park. We used to have one.
Stevie Cater.
Yes. By the pond and one by the flag post. They're not there anymore, and it's been inconvenient for those of us that walk dogs.
We're in the process of buying 5 new dog stations, 4 new dog stations.
Oh, good.
With the bags.
And a place to put it.
And a place to put it.
Good.
Because what we're finding, when we put trash cans out, even if it's over to the pond, someone's walking a trash bag there. So, we're in the process of ordering 4 new trash. We're gonna have 2 there, one by the pond, one over, probably over towards the tennis courts in that, in that area back there. Cause there's other trash cans up by the pavilion.
Right.
So we'll have 2 dog stations there, one at Henry Park and then an additional one there.
Did one of the trash cans end up in the pond?
Yeah,
that is what it is.
They end up in the pond, they end up knocked over, they end up, so.
Jimmy, when you mentioned the dog station, it's just the can, right?
It'll be a bag, dispenser, and a can.
So we're gonna be providing the bag.
We do provide the bags now.
I was just double checking.
Yep.
All right. Anything else?
No.
Okay. Anyone else that would like to address the mayor and council?
Just to set up a grievance meeting, I'm free tomorrow. Can we meet tomorrow?
I think what we'll do is we'll work to set something up. It was my understanding you were out of town last week.
Yeah.
And that this week, maybe we can work to set something up at least.
Or if it's, in a public forum, I trust it.
It would be at the, we're looking at the police department.
Yes.
Just do that for our public.
Because town hall's out of service.
Gotcha. Okay.
Thank you. Anyone, anything else? Okay, moving on to comments from the council. We'll start with the vice president. Okay, Councilmember Nur.
Chief, it's been a very long time since we've had a report on the speed cameras on Flower Street, both the stats and the revenue stream. Possible we can get that?
I can get that. I don't have it with me right now, but I can get that out. You want me to just email it out to all five of you?
Unless you want to present it at the meeting.
How about we do this? How about we have Howard share the information via email, and then there's something that Howard's been working on that's related to that item that maybe when we do that presentation, we can have that discussed as well.
Thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Nichols?
So I don't know if everybody, it's not. So dealing with the death in the last 2 weeks, we've been up and down the highways a lot. And while I'm driving, even though I'm not here, I'm noticing and paying attention to things. So I know we've been talking a lot about ditches and ditch maintenance in our town and in the county and all those things. Our ditches are a mess, but our county ditches are equally a mess, if not worse. And I'm not making light of ours, but looking at that, I'm looking at the ones that are being maintained by the state. Like as I'm traveling up and down 50 and all those other places, right? So I'm wondering when I think about this, and I know that they have some kind of mechanism or whatever they use because they keep theirs clean. Is there a way, is there something that we can do as a municipality to discuss, talk to, partner with those guys to, you know what I mean, for them to come in and see what we can do to create this MOI, whatever. So that beautiful term, that thing. To help appease, ease, clean up, work on, ...
So,
Jimmy Carl was just about to say.
I know, but hold on, Jimmy. So the thing is that Sarah just said, did you get the thing I printed for you? We've been getting a lot of questions into the mayor's office about somebody used to cut my ditch. They don't cut my ditch anymore. Are you going to cut my ditch? I understand, but what I said to Sarah goes, how do you want to handle this? Well, I plan to ask my colleagues how they would like to handle this on Monday, because we had discussed what it would take. Now, this is a new idea, and it's a good one, I think, but in my experience, state doesn't do anything for free. There's a cost associated with cutting those ditches, and I recall my colleagues taking a motion and voting to say that this is something we want to do. The cost was outlined to all of you via email. My question to you is, do we want to take the avenue of covering those costs through mechanisms that we all know how they work? Or should we tell these folks that keep reaching out to the town that that ditch is their responsibility? Because I don't know which way to go.
Yes, maybe we should be cut.
Well, we need the equipment and the money and the personnel to be able to do it.
And that conversation is cyclical because we keep saying the same thing.
That's what I'm getting at. How are we going to solve it?
But when we talk about cost and all the things associated with it, even if we were to say, yes, sir, the town is going to cover this and we're going to pay for it, we still don't have the equipment. Hence the conversation of, where does the equipment come from? The county apparently doesn't have the equipment and they're not doing it.
I saw it happen.
Hold on, Nick, if you don't mind, give us a second.
I hear you, Frank. But at the same time, the county's not doing their due diligence either because their ditches are looking horrendous. I mean, no trees in their ditches. But when I say that, I'm looking at whose ditches are clean and who can we have this conversation with to see if we can work together. And I know we're talking cost, but that we have no solution. So bringing something.
So the state owns their ditches. They're usually either using vegetation control, and then they're coming in with private contracted weed whackers.
Tell me, I had a guy in my yard talking about the ditch that is behind the medical offices, and it is adjacent to to Hudson Street. He said it was a guy in the ditch cutting with a weed whacker. And there was a tractor with one of those arm extended things. Also, was that town equipment?
We have a track, we do have a piece of equipment that can reach into some areas on town property. And then, yes, it was probably, one of our stormwater, which we only had two, gentlemen, that was going in the ditch with a weed whacker.
Tell me when did the town take ownership of that property between Hudson and the back of the medical building?
I'm thinking of.
Where are you at?
Yeah.
Can you, hold on.
Hudson Street.
Which
It's
is
a
off
dead
of
end
Bush
street that ends at the ditches behind the medical offices on Franklin Avenue.
The old railroad. We were going down the old railroad. From
Wait a minute.
William Street down.
So you got equipment that can cut those ditches?
It reaches in, it probably reaches down.
So I asked you, why can't it reach down the ditch that runs parallel to South Street? Why can't it reach?
That ditch is wider. But I'm not trying to.
And I said I wasn't talking about ditches, so come on. But
well, no, I would like your help because we got to respond to some.
But I would like to have the town request that the state cuts the ditch where 113 and Branch Street meet, because you can't see down the highway. And that is really a safety issue.
Can we do that?
Yeah.
That's MDOT. Look, that's their ditch, right? Okay. So now my question to the group is, should we let these folks that are reaching out know that we're working on a plan? Should we let these folks know that this is their ditch for them to maintain, or are we going to make steps to start to maintain town-wide ditches?
We need to make next steps.
What's that?
On private property.
On private property, yes.
Yes, those steps need to be made because the property owner does not have the capacity to maintenance those ditches.
So like how this is going to have to work if the town assumes this responsibility is that there's going to be equipment costs, which we have heard are $200,000 around that range, could be plus or minus, and that there's personnel costs, which could be close to the same amount of money by the time you add in all the factors. Now, there's possibly avenues you can take with part-time staff. The challenge that you run into is that there are hours caps. Kelsey can talk more about that, but there are caps on the amount of hours that people can work, and then the qualified personnel that you can bring in to actually operate that equipment. So the challenge becomes, if you're going to take on ditches, right, the cost should come out of the stormwater fund. And hold on, what's that? It must come out. It must come out of the stormwater fund. So with that being said, $400,000 in costs annual. Well, let's just say $400,000 in cost exceeds the commercial and the residential fees that we collect in one given year. So how many of you all are up for doubling that?
But at the same time, I can say something.
Hold on one second, buddy.
Okay. But at the same time, if we could do an assessment of the ditches that need this additional help, and this would not be a weekly thing. If the ditch could be cut just once during a season, that would serve us out. That would serve us tremendously.
So then what I think could be helpful is if all of you with your district could compile a list of where you think these ditches that need to be cut are. If you could send them to us, and then what we will do is work to see if we can have a contractor come out and figure out how much that would
Please
cost.
keep in mind, if we are going to enter onto private property, we must have agreements with those.
But at least let's start with having an understanding of how much something like that might cost.
It's just, my point is, it's not just as simple as saying, there's a ditch.
Yeah.
There's more to it.
I've even had people from Pal Circle, which their ditches are about as big as this table, have asked us to come. So once we start opening this up to
It's gonna be a
what we
problem.
think are the worst ditches, you're gonna have people coming back and saying, what about my ditch? And I'm only sharing where I get people, and it's there is gonna be manual labor.
Let's talk about how we can make it work.
Yeah.
Which
instead of flexibility, what's gonna stop
This is hundreds of
But I
years of
think-
this on Eastern Shore, guys.
But I think that starting with a starting point, you all know your districts well.
Yeah.
Come up with a list. We'll get somebody to come out and take a look and see what a third party contractor cost would look.
That's a good idea.
Water map available on the town website.
So just circle.
As a record.
And there's a on the Corps of Engineers plan in there somewhere.
All right, so I think we've got Councilmember Swain kind of took over your comments. Anything else? Okay.
I mean, that was my biggest, just, as you're riding down the highway and you're just looking, wait a minute. But that was what I saw. And I know that we've also, and I don't want to go down this rabbit hole tonight either, but again, up and down the highway the past 2 weeks, looking at the solar fields in other municipalities in town. I know we've been talking about that and the possibility of, what our ordinances and laws and all those things should look like. I know you've all already thought about it. Maybe just maybe have those conversations with those other entities. Hey, so how do you guys handle these entities moving into your neighborhood, those kinds of things? I know we thought about all of those before, but just noticing the county has a couple between here and my school, you know what I mean? And then the couple Delaware, crossing over just into Suffolk County, but just thinking about those things, and this is new for us as a municipality, but finding out how it's working and what kinds of things. And there are a lot of people with a lot of thoughts and opinions. If we were to hear from others and how they're handling, maybe it could be something that would be beneficial.
Thank you. Councilmember Ward?
Yeah, well, that's a great segue. Last week I attended the ESAM, which is the Eastern Shore Association of Municipalities meeting. And on top of solar fields, one of the things that is on minds of a lot of our shore partner neighbors is data centers. And I'm not going to get into it tonight, but I do want to drop it in public because I've been talking about it on social media, that I would rather we as a town start to be a little bit more proactive in certain things instead of reactive. And I think that we can have the discussion. I know people are going to be like, it'll never happen here. It'll never happen. Well, those words are the same things that you hear from folks who are the victims of a horrible weather event and they lost all their property. It'll never happen here. So I'm using that as a similarity. I think that we should start looking into the data center discussion. Maybe, I don't know where the county is on it now. I think that they voted on something.
Moratorium.
Yeah, so maybe we can grab their moratorium for the text. I found this out at ESAM. The Supreme Court has allowed municipalities to do a 1-year moratorium to kind of figure it out. So I can help admin if there's appetite there to do that.
1 year the maximum?
Probably.
1 year, 18 months. Is it 1 year maximum?
1 year. You could do like 6 months and then extend it.
Got it.
And then a question I have about the grants in general. Now, just for people out there in the land, in TV land and here, just to be clear, when we get a grant, how does that, maybe Natalie, you can help explain this better. When we get a grant for whatever, generally it's not, or is it generally one lump sum and we disperse it, or are we like expending and then getting reimbursed?
It depends on the grant. If it's reimbursable grant, we would pay for the project first,
Okay.
or a portion of the project and request as we go. Some grants are given in one lump sum and given you a time frame to expense by or? Right. So it depends on the grant.
Okay. Okay. And then, Mike, just one last thing here. I was, a resident asked me to find an application online, and I did, but then I also came upon the building permit application. I just had a quick question. On the bottom here, it's, because I haven't seen this at all. On the bottom here, there's, 7 groups, 7 individuals have to sign this. And I was just gonna throw out to kind of ask, there's no delineation of, although I know, who has the final say. Like it's all the same. It's all just reviewed here. So I'm going to assume, and Ryan, I'm not throwing under the bus here. I'm going to assume P&Z has the final say on this. So my question really is, what would happen, or what does happen, if it gets to you, and then in your review you happen to find something that doesn't jive with code or line or whatever? What's the process to get that rectified, and is there any type of paper trail for that?
So you're right, planning and zoning is the last to sign. I don't think a rhyme or reason for that, it's just, I kind of think it should be reversed, actually. I think planning and zoning needs to review it first, because those are gonna be the things that are maybe going to alter the layout. I've always kind of wondered why is that lack. But yeah, whenever I get around to it, if I do see something that I have a question about, I'll ask one of the other, whoever signed under that line, hey, I had a question about this. It looks maybe weird to me. I know I'm not the expert, but what do you think? Just for a final, are you sure?
And
And
so
if they say it's fine, it's fine. But we don't have any extra paperwork.
Okay, I was just wondering if there was like a sign on this date, and then you caught something, and then I just next to it or something.
Well, you could use the handicap ramp project at our church. It's a bunch of volunteers who don't know what they're doing. So we submit the paperwork, and then she came back to us with some things, and we changed all the lines. And so, like, what you're referring to, like the last step of the process was stuff that she saw on the plans that weren't jived with the
Yeah,
code.
that's a prime example of why I think we should do it first.
Yeah, because I guess in that case, like, you would have stopped it before anybody.
There would have been no need for anybody else to look at it.
Yeah, I'm just an expert now on that. So,
Oh, okay.
But no, I'm not expert, but learned a lot.
Well, that's an admin thing. So maybe if admin leadership can look into that and see if that's just the way to go. To start with planning is
Well, that's an operational thing.
Yeah, I think internally I can just start doing it.
I think I was stepping on.
The code doesn't say it has to be approved.
Nope, that's the operational thing.
Yeah, any certain way.
And operations is your responsibility.
Cool. Thank you, Ryan, Madeline, and everyone. I am done.
Thank you, Councilmember Riggs.
So yeah, and there was a group here that I think we timed out on them, but God bless them. They were represented, and I'm going to make copies of this, scan it, send it to Rob. They were representing the cottages of Rob. Been a lot of ongoing issues there.
The what?
Signed, the cottages of Rob.
Oh, the cottages, sorry, yeah. Yes, yes.
Broad Street. I'm just going to scan this and send it to you all. There's been a lot of problems there. There were 25 residents, and they were coming here to bring it to our attention. And I think we just got too late for them. But
Can you summarize?
basically, so it changed ownership. Mr. Fitzgerald knows about it, I believe, too. But because he's had family there. But it changed ownership, and I know the town had to cite them for grass maybe a year or so ago. It's just barely, there's not been a lot of oversight on the property, and a couple of the tenants didn't have air conditioning for many, many months. And they're trying to work through the appropriate channels. We're now working with Maryland Legal Aid. Again, they came before us to kind of give us the explanation of why this may be coming across our desk. I mean, it's private property, privately owned, but I'd like to just scan this, send it to everybody, just so everyone's in the loop, because I think that they're on the right channels, and it's been a frustrating experience for them. It's in my district, so I've had several residents reach out to me about it. Kind of tough for us, as far as the code violation, that's one thing, but kind of other situations like not having security and things like that.
And this is the senior facility.
Yeah. So I'm just going to scan it and send it to you all. I'm really kind of speaking for them because they wanted to come and talk, but
Can you make sure, I'm sure you would, just make sure the town attorney's on it?
Yes,
And-
that's why.
All right, thank you. Comments from the mayor's office. Sarah, you have anything?
I just wanted to ask everyone to RSVP to our visit on August 13th. Senator Chris Holland is coming on Councilmember Orris's birthday to the
He's bringing cake.
the
No, I don't.
Future Community Center site. We are primed and ready to receive our USDA